Everyone, welcome to the July 11th regularly scheduled school board meeting. Apologies for us being a little delayed. Another meeting ran long. We will start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, we do have one member participating remotely tonight. I seek a motion to allow Lonnie Stevis to participate remotely.
So moved.
Motion by Dan, second by Amy. By roll call vote, Phil?
Aye.
Do make sure to speak up so it's all getting caught on the, are you hearing everything?
Aye. Sorry. I mean,
Dan Smith?
Aye.
Gary Swanson, aye. Amy Tilton?
Aye.
All right, with that, Lonnie, you are officially participating remotely.
Aye. Yeah.
All right, perfect. All right, we do have a new agenda format, so I'm going to stumble quite a bit tonight, but we'll get through it. Open up, see if there's any board comments or committee updates.
So the master plan committee met last night, but I had a family thing that prevented me from attending. The master plan committee met yesterday, but I had a family situation that prevented me from attending. But they're re-looking at like what the build-outs could be for the. So I've been through the meeting or the minute, not the minutes, but like the materials. We'll watch the meeting, but it's really about the build-out and like. Not surprisingly, like there's not a lot of build-out space in Newmarket, and it really seems like single family and multi-family would be like the majority of build-out. So once I have more details from it, I will let you know.
Okay, thank you. Any other committee updates? Nope. All right, or board comments? Apologies, anyone have any comments? No. All right, move right along to superintendent reports.
Thank you, Gary. And actually, I want to start because we have a new staff member here. Sean and Aaron, can you come to the mic? I wanted to allow, I invited Sean to introduce our new assistant principal, Aaron Milbury. So Sean, go ahead.
Thank you very much for having us here this evening, and I'm really pleased to share with you Aaron Milbury, who started with us on July 1st. Aaron is a veteran administrator, has worked in districts around the area, brings a wealth of knowledge to Newmarket Elementary School. We've already been working close together, planning for the upcoming school year, and she just brings a lot of wealth of knowledge I want to tap and utilize for the Newmarket School District. Aaron, if you'd like to introduce yourself.
Thank you. I'm just really excited to be in Newmarket. I have lived in a neighboring community for a long time and have always just been in awe of the awesome community that Newmarket is. So I'm just really excited to be here, and it's been great to get to work, and I'm excited to work with the administrative team at the elementary school.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Welcome, Aaron. And actually, it's a reminder of what a small world it is, because Aaron and I were in courses at UNH, I don't know, in the last decade or so together. So we've known each other, and I think Andy was in some of the same courses with him. So it all circles. New Hampshire's a small place. So welcome aboard, Aaron. Glad to have you.
Thank you very much. Happy to be here.
So anyways, that's very exciting. Like I say, Erin is an exceptional administrator, and we're really excited to have her. A couple of other things I did want to just spend a couple of minutes talking about. I probably don't need to go into a lot of detail because people who live in Newmarket and pay taxes, I'm sure, are very aware that the town just announced its property reevaluation that is people last week, or I guess I think it was last week, all received letters giving them an indication of the impact. And certainly there's, in talking with Steve Fournier, the company, GMI, that is the one doing the reevaluation, if people have concerns about their property values, definitely you can reach out and set up an appointment and discuss that with them, and they'll help you understand that. The big picture overview, what I'm most concerned about is the math is going to be harder as we calculate our budgets. We've bragged a number of times that we were in a $1 billion town, so figuring out tax rates was very convenient. With the revaluation, it's about a 69% increase. So Newmarket as a whole went from being a $1 billion town to being about a $1.7 billion town. So obviously with that comes revaluations of everybody's properties, but please be reminded that commensurate with that, there will be a significant reduction in the tax rate. So the tax rate will drop by by about the same percentage. But obviously, people's property values will impact what their ultimately total tax is. So obviously, lots more to come with that. But again, if you have questions about it, I encourage you to reach out to the town, and they will direct you to GMI to do those meetings. So anyway, but that is big news. It will impact tax rates in the fall. Some good news with Jason here. In fact, Jason, why don't you come on down for a sec? We're excited. We're going to be refreshing our website. You want to tell a little bit about the refreshed website that we got coming, Jason?
Something we've been working on the last few months really was refreshing our district homepages, junior, senior high school homepage, and elementary school homepage. So it'll have a nice modern look, nice big pictures, pulled all the clutter off of there, found some spots for it. So a little reorganization there. Uniform across all three sites. A couple of the big improvements are upcoming event section is going to be manually curated, so it's not just going to pull from a calendar. You're not going to see jump rope 100 times on the side of the page. You'll see actual events that will impact you on the page you're looking at. Also a section for quick links, so it's going to have bunch of helpful links there where parents and families can go to, click on them and get some information, maybe save a couple phone calls into the main offices, which I'm sure the ladies will appreciate. And the final one, and one we're probably most excited about, is the news and updates. So a lot of times everyone has a lot going on. Keeping the website fresh and up to date is difficult. We'll do it, focus some attention on it, and then it's stale for the next however long. So made some improvements there, but we'll have the big image at the top of the page, upcoming events, that quick link section, and then at the bottom there'll be news and events, and we actually have someone that's going to help us a couple hours a week curating actual events, reaching out to people, looking for images, articles, and just have some fresh info on there, celebrating staff and students in the district.
Yeah, I think, just piggyback off that, Jason, I think it kind of ties in nicely with our looking for better ways to communicate with the community. And I think a place that is convenient to access, that will have articles and information about ongoing good things that are happening, is really helpful. So anyway, the intention is to have that launched by the end of next week, right, Jason?
That's the plan.
Okay, there we go. So be on the lookout for
Is there a countdown clock we should be watching somewhere?
Nope.
All right.
So that's really exciting news. So I'm thrilled about that. On a couple of other items of exciting news, the next time we meet here on August 1st, we will be able to look out the window and see a refreshed courtyard, where there will have been, the courtyard project is scheduled to start on Monday, and they anticipate it taking about a week to do. So fingers crossed that it doesn't turn into a tsunami rainstorm during the time they're doing it, but the intention is to have it done within a week and a half. So hopefully the next time we meet, we'll take a moment to look out the window and enjoy the new courtyard.
We could have the meeting out there.
We could, as long as the mosquitoes aren't dive bombing us. And then on that same note, in terms of some upgrades, the playground over at the elementary school, they're in the process of putting down the ADA compliant matting to make the playground 100% compliant with all the new standards. You may recall when we began the work on the playground, there was one set of standards, then a new law went into effect on January 1st. This brings us 100% in compliance with everything, and it's fully ADA compliant, and that should be done by the end of July as well, I understand, right? Is that right, Sean? Yeah, okay. And then big news for the board, but hopefully also for the community. Tonight is the first board meeting where we're utilizing our new tool, Board Docs. For those of you who haven't had a chance to check it out, Board Docs is a platform it's currently on our website. It's for access to school board policies. So if you're looking for information on school policies, if you're experienced with our old system, it is infinitely better than the old system in terms of accessing board policies. There's no time lag between finding a policy and opening it and so forth. It's great. And also, we are now managing our agendas and all the documents for meetings, so hopefully it'll be easier for board members to navigate, but it will also be easier for community members at home who are trying to follow along with the meeting to be able to say, okay, what document are they talking about? And it's directly linked to each agenda item. So very exciting, and thank you to Jason and his team for getting that up to speed. And actually, Patty Banfield, who is here, she also had a big role in on that, so thank you for that work. One other item, Patty Banfield, my executive assistant, some of you may have heard. Patty, congratulations on your upcoming nuptials, but it also, sadly for us as a district, it does mean that Patty is going to be leaving us. So she has, you may have noticed, we have started advertising for an executive assistant for the superintendent. Patty is going to be with us for another 90 days to help us with that transition, but congratulations, Patty, and thank you for everything you've done. And then the last, excuse me, last thing I wanted to mention was more, should have brought some water with me, I am on vacation from Monday, July 15th until Friday, July 26th. Patty, as well as Patty Banfield, as well as Patty Wands, as well as the building administrators all have my personal cell phone. But Patty Wands and Jana are 100% capable of managing anything that might come up in the district, so please know that I will be away for the next 2 weeks, and the district is in their capable hands. And with that, I'm done.
Great, thank you very much. Next up, we'll head into presentations. First off, we have district goals and school growth plan with Superintendent Allen.
Patty,
Assistant
can you
Patty
log,
Wands.
we need to hook up the PowerPoint?
Principal
incident.
Amy Corman, who will be right back, and Principal Sean Pine.
That's cyber incident.
Do we want to do the cyber incident one first?
Oh, actually, yeah,
Seeing how it's next on the agenda.
yeah, why don't we do,
I'm going from an old copy of the agenda.
apologies, Jason, you are next.
I wanted to Jason.
Make you hang out here
I'd like to
longer.
have Jason stay a little longer. Jason, Director of Technology is here, Jason Carey, to present us with the cyber incident response plan.
All right, good evening. I want to add one piece for board docs. We were the first district in the state to use it with the actual data privacy agreement. So it took quite a while to get that approved, but now we're using it, meeting the state minimum standards for data privacy. So last time I was here, okay.
Okay, keep going.
All right. Last time I was here, we talked about some cybersecurity improvements that we had been working on, multi-factor authentication, raising awareness throughout the district. And one of those pieces, or one of the goals for the year, was to create an incident response plan and have that approved by the end of the year. We're a little past the end of the year, but happy to say we have a final draft ready for approval. As you know from my last visit, schools are targets, right, for cyber events.
I think, just take a time out real quick, where it manifests.
Good, I'm
where-
listening.
We're good.
Go ahead, we're good. Keep
Okay, go ahead, keep going.
I promise I'm paying attention.
I'm gonna ask
they all
questions at the
say.
end. So again, schools are under constant threat. Universities, soft targets. We operate in an environment with a lot of threats, and most schools have a low defense capacity. So they don't have the same tools, same staff that a large organization does. So more susceptible to those attacks. The incident response plan just gives us guidelines, right? So if we do ever experience a cyber incident like ransomware, where everything shuts down, phones, internet, workstations are locked down, we're back to 1985. And instead of me worrying about updating my resume, I can immediately dive into a response, right? Grab the paper, print this off, it's not gonna be digital in case we don't have internet, and just start going down the checklist, immediately initiate that response. Our process, we worked on this really for a year, among other things, but we worked in collaboration with the Adam Group out of Portsmouth, New Hampshire, CISA, which is a federal agency, and then Primex, our insurance provider. They helped us draft the plan. We went through multiple iterations. We got to do a tabletop exercise with some outside folks, with the whole admin team, which really pointed out all the strengths, all the weaknesses, allowed us to go back and fine-tune the plan. So we feel like we have a great plan ready for approval. We'd like to have it approved as a procedure versus a policy. A lot of the details in there are contact information, really phone trees, and we just by the nature of the plan, it's exempt from our RSA 91A, but having it as a procedure will allow us to edit it, make updates quickly. As you know, if we had turnovers, one would really see changes.
So in terms of, just to kind of piggyback off Jason, obviously he's giving you just a big picture overview. If the board would like to discuss any specific elements of the plan and see it, we can move into non-public and discuss it. But if you're comfortable, I would say Jason and his team, as well as the leadership team, have done a lot of work on this. And it basically, as Jason has described, it's a plan that puts us in a position in the event of a cyber incident. We all know what to do and we can do the trainings around it. So what we'd be looking for tonight, if you're okay with it, is to approve it based upon his general description of it. And then if we want to do a review of it in non-public, we can do that.
Great. Does anyone have any questions? No? All right. I think you're off the hook, Jason. Thank you so much.
All right.
I think we're good, Jason.
All right. Thank you.
Apologies
Well
for not following the agenda. I won't let it happen again.
All right.
All right, next, we
District
actually
goals.
are having the district goals and superintendent.
There we go.
Excuse me, school growth plans.
Great, thanks. So you got it on your computer, right? Okay, all right. So as you know, we have been doing a lot of work around goals and growth plans. Both schools, it started at the junior, senior high, even before I came on board, with the NEASC process, kind of going through the idea of establishing what they call priority areas for growth, and then using those to develop a school growth plan. As Andy and his team was going through their process, we realized very quickly that a similar process would be beneficial at the elementary school to give them similar focus. And so we actually have been contracted with New Hampshire Learning Initiative to work alongside Sean and his team to develop a plan at the elementary school. Obviously, though, we're a whole district, and we want to make sure that all of our efforts are coordinated. So what we're here to present to you tonight are the goals that we as a school district leadership team have identified for us as a district. We develop those utilizing the growth plans at each building, the draft school board goals that you had created, and what we tried to do is create district goals that are kind of umbrellas to everything, and then each building gets into specific goals to develop. What you're going to see here tonight is a broad overview of it. In the board backup, though, the individual school growth plans are available for you to look at that get into the details and the action items. So Patty, why don't you click to the... There we go. Okay, so we have developed 4 goals that are overall overarching goals for the entire district. Goal number 1, to promote a collaborative, student-centered professional culture that values teacher voice, leadership, and effective communication. One of the things that has come out loud and clear from both buildings is a desire for teachers to be more actively involved in making big decisions about programs and so forth. And I think we've had a number of successes in that vein. In fact, Patty, we keep holding up the literacy team, but if you...
Yeah, the literacy review committee is just a really positive example of teachers working for well over a year and a half together.
Mike.
The literacy review team of teachers, K-5, including reading specialists, special educators, working together over a year and a half period to research literacy programs out there, to invite companies in to ask questions, to learn more about it, and then select programs to pilot. It was a nearly full school pilot across K-5, and then having those continuous meetings about the pilot, and then having, using a protocol, a consensus-based decision-making protocol to select the actual literacy program. So Sean did not vote, I did not vote, we just facilitated conversation among the teachers, and the teachers really owned the program that they selected. And there's such empowerment with that, and excitement as well.
And I think that's an example of the kind of process we want to embed across the board. And this goal is really trying to embrace the idea that we want a collaborative leadership style. We want to move away from the idea of administration should do X, that's
Yeah.
where the solution's going to come from. And I think we realize that the best way to build sustainable growth is to get everybody, all stakeholders involved. And this is really what this goal is about.
Yeah, it also helps support commonality, common structures, consistency, so that when we have our students move through the grade levels K-5, there are more common experiences, so that when they reach sixth grade, the sixth grade teachers know of those experiences that all incoming sixth graders had, rather than just one class or two class. So having teachers collectively work together supports that.
So let's go on to number 2.
Yep.
Sorry to make you go back and forth. Okay, so this is really more you, so why don't you come on up?
Sure.
This is
Andy's gonna-
Andy's going to click, great, all right.
There we go. Oh, look at this.
Should we vote first?
You want to put it on?
I can do that, sure.
Just don't walk away
Just
with
remember
it.
when you sit down and talk about us that you take it off.
Perfect. Okay, so curriculum alignment. The work has been very exciting in terms of the UBD units, but what we are looking to do within this goal is, now we've done the work of the UBD units across the middle and the high school. We're implementing a new literacy program, K-5. We really want to next identify what are the priority standards in English, language arts, in mathematics, in science, in social studies. Looking at our core subjects first and identifying those priority standards. So again, I go back to that commonality and that consistency. Sometimes we can kind of get caught up in the resource rather than the curriculum. And sometimes we can get caught up in the resource of, we just kind of turned the page, and we can get sometimes hung up, or even on special projects. But then when really we dig down and look at that, we ask ourselves, well, what are we teaching? What is the priority standard that students are learning? And then how do we know that they're learning that? What does that look like? So those are some really deep conversations. There'll be 2 new committees being developed in the school year. Pre-K-12, one will be a math committee with representation from each grade level, or I should say bands, grade bands, and then one an English language arts committee. And that's where that work will start, by first looking at our data, identifying those priority standards, and then looking at programming as well and talking about that.
Excellent.
Okay. Move on
Next
to the
one.
Okay. No, I don't know what I should. Okay.
Yeah, so the next goal we've identified, and again, you'll see this in both building level goals as well, is to implement universal screening measures and progress monitoring measures to provide benchmark data throughout the school year. Really, hold on, I jumped ahead here.
That's okay, I can speak to this one.
Yeah, go ahead, speak to it.
Sure.
Yep.
So when we talk about universal screening, those are assessments that are given to all students, K-12. So for example, at K-8 level, we know we give the New Hampshire SAS in reading, mathematics, and then science for grades 4, 8, and 11. For K-8, we'll also be administering in reading and mathematics what we call benchmarking data. So in the fall, the winter, and the spring, we'll be giving the iReady assessment in reading and mathematics. And that's really where teachers can drill down in terms of goal setting. Students can set goals, but students can see the progress that they're making from fall to winter to spring. So that's when we talk about universal screeners. Then when we talk about progress monitoring data, that's a little bit different. So if a student is in an intervention, we want to monitor their progress. First, we need to identify who are our students in intervention. They're not students who are necessarily identified under IDEA, but they're students who might be scoring between that 25th and 40th percentile from those universal screeners that are kind of at risk, and that
certainly might have holes in their learning, or maybe they haven't mastered all the standards in their grade level that they should have by now. And so as a result, we want to give them an intervention. But what's important with that is, how do we monitor the progress when a student is in their intervention? And then, so when we're looking at data, we're looking at trend lines as well. And universal screening data gives us the opportunity to do that. So if we see a particular trend maybe in a grade level, or maybe a particular standard where our students are not meeting mastery, those are those conversations that we talk about.
Yeah. And this actually, we felt dovetailed well with one of the goals the board had established around trying to establish what are the metrics
Yeah.
we're going to be looking at over time to be able to talk about growth, because we want to be able to have some very informed conversations with the board and with the community
Yeah, and
about
I
where our
feel
students are
as
at.
a district, really being more intentional when we talk about how do we tie data to instruction. And data isn't just assessment data, but it's anecdotal data as well. You know, our students in our classroom, but how are we tying that to our daily instruction? And really using terms like that and facilitating conversations with teachers with that focus.
Yep. And then the last district level goal is the MTSS goal, to develop and define an MTSS structure for pre-K through grade 12, supports both academic and behavioral growth. Really what we actually had our
meeting.
big organizational meeting. You want to talk about that, Patty?
Sure, yeah. We, just the other day, Todd, Eric, and I met with the building leaders for both the elementary school and the junior, senior high school. And we just really talked about defining our system or our structure. You know, we always talk about a strong foundation for a house. Without a strong foundation, the house is going to fall down. Well, it's the same with a multi-tiered system of support. What does that foundation look like in your school? How do we know, you know, well, first, what are our students learning? How do we know that they're learning? What do we do when they're not learning? And how are we always looking at this data and this information to support all of our students? So it's a lot, and it's a lot to create this system to support our students. And scheduling is impacted, services structure is impacted. So really it's defining what our schools are doing, and then how our leaders of the school will be sharing that with their staff. So they're making really great gains.
Yep.
And we've had these steps along the way. I'm going to say the elementary school and the middle senior high school has been having those steps of talking about students and programming, but we're trying to define it even more
Right.
for our
Yeah.
staff.
So we're actually very excited at the potential here, because it will lead to some structural changes that we know we need to make. So so that moving from those are the district goals, and now I'm going to ask Sean. Sean's going to come up. So Sean's going to share with you the elementary school growth plan.
Just tying in, as Todd mentioned earlier, that our goals and growth plans are very much similar throughout the district. So what we are working on this year in terms of our growth plan, when you look at our growth plan, you'll see the three kind of main categories that we're focusing on. I've addressed the goal for each of those categories. So in terms of student growth and learning, our goal is to increase student growth and mastery of essential learning. So we want to identify some consistent practices of metacognitive skills for students. In other words, how can we as a building and at each grade level identify those skill sets that children need to know about how they're learning, why they're learning, how to apply what my strengths are, what my weaknesses are in my learning, and how can we kind of build that ability for students to do that through our instructional approaches that we use. We want to develop a balanced assessment practices, provide each of the grade level teams with information to monitor students. Patty talked extensively about that, but also looking into how can grade levels work together in providing common experiences that also have a common rubric that are used throughout the grade level, maybe a common screener assessments that they can develop as well. So it gives them kind of more of that informal information to back the data that we have from those more formal and progress monitoring tools that we use. And most importantly, I think, is empower all our learners in all aspects of the learning process. So how do we give kids agency in their learning? How do we make sure that kids are advocating for what they need, and to be an advocate for what they're doing here? I have to cheat and look at my notes really quick. To develop critical thinking skills, and how to kind of foster more student independence as they are moving through our school. So ultimately, when they come up and they have that independence, they can say, I need help with this, or I know that I'm not strong at this. This is the areas that I need to focus on, or this is my passion. I really want to, can I use what I'm learning in class here to pursue this passion here and delve deeper into what I'm doing. Professional growth and learning, we will continue, as Patty and Todd mentioned, we are continuing to refine the implementation of our MTSS structure and PLC models. PLCs are a little bit rougher than MTSS structure right now, but we want to do this so we can support school-wide collaboration and student-centered learning. So we have MTSS in mind as we developed our master's schedule this year. We have defined areas in where we can give that support services or systematic support services to students, both for those kids that need some pumping up and for those kids that are, kind of our high flyers. How do we address those needs there as well? And we'll be implementing our My View literacy program. Pleased to say that many of our teachers are currently taking some of the webinars right now and prepping for it. There's plenty of professional development. Extremely excited about this. As Patty said, the teachers were the drivers for this program. So we're looking forward to seeing what a true K through 5 program, which we have never had at the elementary school, how is that going to impact the learning in the areas of language arts instruction. So it'll be an exciting process to see, and
Definitely.
I'm sure we'll start seeing some of the benefits early on and then further down the line as well. And our final goal is to enhance a culture of student-centered school through the development of our mission, vision, and values. We kind of, right now, when we talk about a mission, there's a district mission statement, but there isn't one here for the school. So, obviously people can say, well, your mission is to educate kids, but we want to delve deeper into what is our true mission for that. Yes, we know we have to educate kids and we want all kids to be learners, but take a kind of a deep dive into that and come up with a clear mission for our school. And again, that kind of supported with the vision. Okay, so now that we've developed this clear mission statement and what we want to do with our kids in our school, how are we going to support that through the vision? What are the things that we are going to see and do in the school to support that mission? And then finally, our values. What are the core values that we want our staff and families and learning community to have in order to support the mission and vision of our school? So in a nutshell, that's kind of what we are looking at this year.
And just to jump off that, keeping in mind, as you're doing that, you're keeping in mind the district vision of a graduate and all
yes,
that
I'm
conversation,
sorry.
correct?
Yeah, I should say that. Obviously, vision of a graduate is a driving force and guiding guidelines for how we're going to get to these as well. Put that on there. Forgot to mention it. Sorry about that.
No, so quite all right. And now, Andy, you want to?
So, as Todd mentioned, ours is slightly different because it came out of the NEASC work. You're going to hear a lot of the same material, just the pathway of how we got here is slightly different. So for our growth plan, we have 5 overall goals. First one here relies on curriculum. Developing and sustaining a school-wide curriculum that provides consistency, depth, quality, and accessibility for all students. This is an ongoing process. We've developed stage 1 UBD work in all of our core areas. We're beginning the work of transitioning to stage 2 with the long-term goal here. Our growth plan is envisioning a 3 to 5 year plan and where you want to go immediately and then eventually down the road and in that year 3, 4, get to that point where we are, 2, 3, we are vertically aligned, and having those clear experiences. You heard Sean talk about it. One of my goals over and over again, especially at the middle school level, is to have those touchstone moments in 6th grade, 7th grade, 8th grade that align with curriculum. So one of the things that is always really nice at the end of the year is going to that senior banquet where they put together that slideshow, and to see so many of the moments that kids value are things that happen in our building, whether it's a particular day in a class that you dressed up as, or this outing experience or whatever, and having those as not just one-offs, but really built into the curriculum and having meaningful connection. This is that starting work, and we've already gotten there with stage 1, we're getting to stage 2, and we're really, this is something that with Patty's help, we have really made some immense progress on. So that's our first goal. Cool. It's thinking. There it goes. Foster a positive and collaborative culture characterized by cohesion, morale, and caring in a respectful environment and trusting for everyone. Unique to this building, obviously we have some students that will tell you exactly how they feel about learning on any given day, and making sure that we work with all students to develop and enhance our mission and core values. As part of the NEAS process, we have redone the mission statement here at the school. We've had an extensive conversation with lots of feedback on core values. One of the things that we're really focusing in on are some of those traditions, events, whether it's Jamie at the beginning of the year doing great work with the bonfire, counseling department every year does in this space probably the biggest sale of, or open to the community of clothes and donations that come in. Our National Junior Honor Society and Senior Honor Society do blood drives. Having things in the building that have a positive impact on kids and making them feel engaged. I'm a firm believer, you give a kid a good reason to come to school and something to believe in, good things will happen. In new practices and traditions, we know what works, but also really completely moving beyond the malaise of COVID and diving back into things. So we joked last year, we had our first middle school dance, trying new things to get folks involved, and then finally creating and sustaining new and current co-curricular opportunities. We have a lot of new staff this year, and we've got a lot of open co-curriculars, and some of our new staff have already reached out with ideas that they are interested in bringing from prior employment here to implement things all over the place, trying to get different types of kids involved and invested in their learning as a way to collaborate and enjoy school. Yep. Aligning with your goals, and Sean, this is the enhanced achievement and growth through innovative instructional strategies. Again, if we know what we're teaching, if we can deliver it in exciting, investing ways, good things happen. One of the things we piloted this year, we developed some think tanks. We don't call them committees. Committee is a bad word here sometimes. Think tank is a staff-driven group. You throw a big idea or a big problem at them, and they work as a group of educators to gather information on it. Things we've piloted out this year, think tanks around grading practices, which is a really big, heavy lift. It's kind of the third rail in education, makes everybody nervous, to simple things like climate and culture and wellness. How do we make things better? And it's not an administrator coming into the room saying, here's what we're going to do. It's staff having some conversations, bringing kids into it, talking to them, what does this mean to you, and gathering information and feedback. We're also looking to target some specific professional development opportunities for folks to collaborate. We've already made some great connections with some middle school friends over at Dover to talk specifically around some math, and that's gone really, really well. And having other educators who do the same thing talk to each other is a really powerful moment, and it really allows some collaboration. And then in that 3 to 5 year plan, the one that has raised the most ire so far is the development of common assessments. It's really important, if you know what you teach and how you get there, that it's a common assessment, that regardless if I take the course with Amy, Gary, or Todd, I get the same course and I get the same assessment at the end. And it's making sure that we have quality instruction to make sure we're getting quality learning. Conjunction with the well-established VOG, really embracing our new mission, our vision, our core values in learning, this is something that's going to come out of the box hot. We're really going to come out with this and really challenge staff to find and be really explicit about what we're doing and how it connects to mission, to vision, to core values, what it is we're doing. So it's not just an English class, we're doing this. We're doing this because this is what it aligns to and this is what we're trying to work on. And being very direct both with staff and with students about outcomes to promote and publicize the practices, to really have everyone invest in the VOG. And then at the end of it, formally and informally find ways to gather feedback. Trying to put information out there, was it well received, what worked, what didn't, and gathering that feedback around climate and culture, class experiences. One of the things I put out a few weeks ago to staff was the idea of an end of course survey for folks, not evaluative, not administrative, but what type of questions would you want to ask your students at the end of a course to make you a better educator, and to work with folks to start to pilot that off the ground here for semester 1. And our last goal, this is more of an operational side. Always, one of my many jobs is to make sure that we are running the cleanest possible ship we can, and to look at our current operational procedures and our systems and making sure that they are doing the absolute best they can to meet student need. Whether that's looking at Infinite Campus, our information system, and better ways to capitalize that, working with Jay and Jason to find different opportunities there, master scheduling with counseling as we start the program of studies process in December. What courses are we offering? Why are kids taking those courses? What are they invested in? What other opportunities can we start to make? And then just coming to you folks with some policy suggestions or recommendations on, hey, this is kind of a hindrance and this is why, can we talk about it? To try to make the operation here better for the kids and for the overall learning environment. So 5 goals. We're really excited. These were developed in collaboration with the initial NEAS self-study, the report that came back, steering committee, and back and forth with staff. At this point, probably 5 or 6 times. So it's been a really collaborative process to get feedback from everybody involved with this.
And it probably wouldn't be a bad idea, Andy, for you to mention that in November, NEASC is back to do the decennial.
Put it on your calendars now. They're going to want to chat with you guys. November 17th to November 20th, we will have our decennial NEASC visit to come and look under the rug and see what we've done. Very excited about it. We've made some great progress. I have a giant sticky list of things on my board for summer work, and the next one up is to start to draft off that final NEASC report. So we're excited.
So hopefully what you've been able to see is that we're really trying to coordinate district goals and building goals with the idea that we're a pre-K-12 system. And then obviously that hopefully aligns very well with what the board is thinking with regards to that. So we'd be happy to take any questions you might have regarding those goals.
I guess for Andy and Sean both, I love the ambition. I love the amount of thought and just the amount of things that you're working to try to do. What's your game plan? I mean, it's as they say, there's nothing easier than having a list. You just write down the list. What's your plan for how you get the resources to actually keep moving these things forward? How you keep your staff engaged? How you actually, move these things from like a list to things that we're delivering?
Away from my list. So the most unconventional answer, I think, is the right one here. I'm not running the list, right? This is not the Andy show. It's not if I get hit by a bus tomorrow, what happens. We have 2 to 3 staff members on each one of those goals that have invested every Wednesday since probably mid-March, that have worked on writing them, developing them, and are kind of my in-house point person on each of those and know where the thought is. They obviously consult with me on things, but for example, the first time we put this out there, I said, here are the 5 goals. Goal 1 is attached to this person. If you have questions or feedback, please go speak to them. Because one of the things that's really challenging, even a building this size, is I can't be everything. And it's, as Todd talked me off the ledge a few times, it's not my job. I can't do that to everything. So you've got to share it out. And one of the strategies I use specifically with this is to tap different folks on each one of those goals. And I'm confident by sharing it, there's not a person in this building that doesn't have some investment in one of those. But on the flip side, it's a goal. And the job of a goal is to put it out there and work towards it. And if you don't hit it, that's okay, but where did we fall down and how can we pick up the pieces to continue the momentum? So really long-winded answer of saying I'm spreading the wealth and and not at the back end of here's Andy's 5 goals, you're in charge of these, but starting from the ground up of having people self-identify their individual passions and go, I'm really interested in VOG. The staff member who's in charge of that goal is highly invested, was on the VOG committee and really excited about it, and she's really starting to drive it. So that's from my building.
Similar approach that Andy described as well. When we did extensive work this spring, early spring with John Vanderalls, we had a committee of people that were really dedicated to developing the student growth, our school growth plan, excuse me. And I envision a similar thing for when we're talking to the goals. That growth plan committee will be kind of the nebulous of it. I also have a teacher leadership team that we will be constantly talking about these goals, trying to get some subcommittees with those. It needs to be very teacher driven. It would be very easy for me to say, these are the goals and you're going to do this, you're going to do this, but to get that buy-in and get the people on board with this and build kind of that collaborative culture, I think it is one of those things that we have that these two groups already established and branching off and getting some subcommittees from those groups together as well. And then doing the periodic check-ins when I'm doing staff meetings and everything. How are we doing and reporting out for that?
And if I could also just add too, because I think one of the things that from the first day I started here a couple of years ago, it's very clear to me that there's no shortage of ideas for how to make the Newmarket schools better. So the resource that we're really tapping is time and space. Yes, when we adopt a new program like a literacy program, there's a cost associated with that. But most of it is like, where are we going to direct our energies? Where are we going to spend our time? And I think that's really what this is doing, is prioritizing the use of time. And from what you're hearing, you've got individual staff members, multiple of them, that are really investing time and energy, and that's what's going to make it sustainable. That's what's going to make it real.
Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead.
So it's kind of the same thought as you, right? Like I saw this list and like we could have conversations about words, whatever, but like ultimately like they're strong lists, but like that looks like 4 years of work. That does not look like 1 year, right? Like, and when I think about time, right, I can give you more of anything but time, right? And Napoleon said that, right? Like this idea of how do we potentially say, okay, here's our list for fiscal year 25, what are the 2 that we're like, we are moving all of our resources to move these 2 forward? Because I'm also thinking about even if you moved all of these forward, if you're just a staff member, faculty out there, and like that's a bunch of change going on, and all of a sudden you got like 14 different changes, and it feels like, wait a minute, there's like this is changing and that's changing, it would feel potentially somewhat less coherent. And like people say they like change, but like they're lying. No one likes change.
I like it when it affects somebody else.
Yeah, well, I would encourage everyone here to towel off in a different order than you normally do in the morning and see how the rest of the day feels. That's like change just messes people up, right? Like, and it takes time to adapt it and adopt to it. And if it's just like change, as opposed to like, hey, here's the narrative as to why we're starting here and there. I love all of these. I think it's just more of like, how do we coherently flow them over several years to get to where we are?
But I do think what we're embracing, and really I think NEASC has mapped it out, it's acknowledged that it's a multi-year process. You're talking 3 to 5 years, and I think in both cases, let's come back 3 to 5 years from now and talk about where we are. But what it is, it's also a fluid process. You're continuously looking at your list of action items and you're saying, okay, have we accomplished this? Do we still think that's where we need to focus our energy? I mean, one of the analogies I've used with Sean and Andy somewhat is trying to move ourselves away from the game of whack-a-mole, where it's just like continuous crisis of the moment kind of situations to, okay, is this in our priorities? Is this an area we want to focus? And rather than investing lots of time and energy trying to convince people of what's important. We've established what's important. Now it's a question of what are the steps we're going to take to get there. And I agree wholeheartedly. People resist change when it really comes down to being personal. And I think that's where we've embraced across the board the idea of collaboration. So it's not we're not trying to inflict change upon anyone. We want everyone to be at the table, to be a part of identifying what those changes might be, which is why it's a broken record, but the idea that the literacy committee spent, 15 educators spent an entire year going through this, it isn't, Sean's program. This is what your colleagues did, this is what they brought to the table. And so it doesn't make change any easier, but it makes it more acceptable, I guess, because it's not external. We're together identifying it.
Yeah, I
Addie,
guess,
can I ask you a question? Sure. On goal 3, the achievement, how is it going to be different than what we currently do? With the universal screenings and the monitoring, the measures and everything?
Yeah, so currently, or I should say the past school years, this Newmarket has been a NWEA school.
Right.
With MAP testing, and with NWEA, it is nationally normed, and it gives students a RIT score. It can give the teacher time on task, like the duration of each student taking the assessment. But aside from that, what it doesn't give teachers is resources. So you've told me the strengths of my student, you've told me where they are, what do I do next? What iReady gives is an incredibly user-friendly platform for teachers. One, our students shared with us that the assessment itself was more engaging. It is an adaptive assessment, just like NWEA, in terms of you get the answer right, it's going to go up a little. You get the answer wrong, it's going to go down a little. It is designed for students to answer 50% of the questions correct and 50% of the questions wrong. iReady is aligned to the grade level standards. So what we're assessing is what standards do students know, what standards do students not know. So for example, let's say you're a 3rd grade teacher, and you might see maybe 50% of your class is coming out in September when you take the first assessment 1 year below. A lot of times teachers will panic, and I say, don't panic. Remember, they're assessing your 3rd graders, beginning of the year 3rd graders, on 3rd grade standards that you haven't taught them yet. So you're going to see growth come January. It's exactly what the elementary school saw when they piloted the iReady test. They only did it in reading and not math. iReady also recognizes like the cognitive demand of students when they take an assessment, so that they're working so hard in this assessment that it identifies and stops the assessment, and they call it a brain break. And the kids, it's built into the assessment. NEWA does not have that. The print, or if you saw the text in NEWA, it's very, I'm just gonna use the word dated, and, like just maybe a Times New Roman font or whatnot, where iReady, it's colorful, it's very, you can drag and drop and move and highlight. So it's more interactive for students as they're taking the assessment. We also recommend too how we're administering it. We can see at the elementary school just little differences. Like for example, why do we take this test? And having our teachers tell our kids why. We've never really done that with NWEA. It's like, you gotta take this 3 times a year. I don't know, do your best. And I'm not saying that everybody does this, but there's certainly a culture, I don't know if Andy could speak to it too, of like, just not knowing why, and well, what do we do with the data? We don't really do much with it. I don't have time. iReady, what they offer teachers are reports. They will categorize students, put students into subgroups based on the standards of mastery and where they are in the development of that. They also provide scaffolded lessons for teachers. That's the hardest thing. I'm a former 8th grade teacher, and I was at NWEA school as well. And I remember getting all the RIT scores. Okay, I can put the kids in groups by RIT scores. Well, now what do? I have resources for my students on grade level, and I had resources for my students above grade level. Although sometimes I always questioned myself of, what am I targeting? What iReady does for teachers, it actually gives tools for instruction, is what it's called. And they will give them resources. Our 2 groups of cohorts of students who are low achievers making low growth, but also our high achievers making low growth. What are we doing explicitly to move our higher achievers? What are we doing explicitly to help support our lower achievers? And that's what's hard for teachers. Their day is jam-packed. They're making 1 million decisions a day. They're planning so hard, and it's
having the resources at your fingertips, the recommendations that it gives, the grouping that it gives, and then the scaffolding. So let's say, for example, I'm an 8th grade teacher, and the standard I'm teaching is finding the main idea, let's just say. I'm going to use a text-based reading to do that with my students and to go through that. And I will probably, explicitly teach what that looks like and model to students. But then I want to give them a reading below grade level, on grade level, and above grade level. That's scaffolding. So what iReady does is it actually gives those resources to teachers, so they don't have to beg, borrow, and steal and go look for them. That was the game changer. I don't know if Sean can speak to it too. That was a game changer at the elementary school of our teachers sharing with us that, oh my gosh.
Sorry to interrupt.
Sorry.
I do know we have a ton of other things, but I am curious. So one thing that's valuable about any assessment tool is the trends that you could see because of it.
Yes.
How can the board feel comfortable that in 3 years, and 5 years, and 8 years, we're still going to want to use iReady, and we're still going to use iReady, and we're committed to a tool that gives us the long-term trends?
Yeah, and it's actually us reading the data, analyzing the data. That's not, I would say, a really common practice right now. And then we might look at the data, but then what do we do with it afterwards, right? So how is it impacting curriculum? So I told you about the ELA committees that I'm creating pre-K-12. We have significant data for our grades 6, 7, and 8 of both ELA and mathematics that we really need to talk about. And when we identify those priority standards, then we go back to the data can also tease out the standards where our students are performing really well, but we also have to look at the standards where our students aren't performing and they're struggling and ask ourselves some tough questions. Why? What are we doing? What are we teaching to address those standards? Maybe we're not. And that's the rich and the beauty of the conversation when we're talking about data, is to really look at programming and resources and that how are we teaching it? And I totally agree with you. It's not an end-all be-all. But what excited our elementary teachers is what it gave them so much more than what NWA did not give them.
And I think it's also worth pointing out, too, that you, as a result of the excitement of the K-5, you shared it with the middle school, and they were like, oh my God, this is a game changer for the learning block.
Yeah, I did.
And all
I
of that
met with the
stuff,
math teachers at the middle school, and I walked them through it and walked them through the assessment, the programs, the reports. And then I gave them a demo account so they could play with it and look at lessons for themselves. And overwhelmingly pleased. I then met with the ELA teachers and did the same thing. And they said, oh my gosh, yes, let's do this. And I also shared with them that our 5th graders are rising, or our 6th graders, I guess we should call them now, they're going to expect it because they had iReady for reading. So they're going to be really excited about continuing that. With ELA.
Great.
Yeah.
I think we look forward to seeing
I don't know
some
if,
of the results.
did I answer your question, Amy? Did I help you?
You did, but I have one quick question. So will we still be able to compare nationally?
Oh, yeah.
How iReady
So what's great with
works?
iReady, it's criterion referenced, right? So against the grade level standards, but it's also nationally normed too. So you absolutely, you can get a percentile, but then you can also get the grade level and then drilled right down to the standards students have mastered and what they haven't. What I love, I'm just going to add one more thing. They have an asset-based philosophy curriculum associate. So what that means is, what are all of the things that are standards that our students can do? Sometimes we get caught in all the things that our kids cannot do. Oh, they can't do this. So let's just flip that narrative of no, let's be positive. What are all the things they can do? Maybe it is a 3rd grader, but they've mastered all of these 1st and maybe half of 2nd grade standards. That's where you're going to start. On what they can do to then bring them up and through.
Great. Any other questions?
Mine's only, I don't want to get into it, we have a big agenda, and we're probably going to be here for a while. Is there a reason we have building level core values and not district core values?
No, not specifically. I mean, I think we have talked as a board of wanting to redevelop our mission and vision, as a district. I mean, we've got this vision of a graduate that came out of it certainly could be an exercise at a district level. I do think one of the things that typically happens when you're doing school change, you might even start to hear like the math department develops its own mission and vision statement around math education, and so there's a lot more of that
Yeah.
that's built in. But no, there isn't a reason why we don't.
I'm
need
all
to.
about independent mission and visions, but like core values are like manifestations of your organizational culture, right? They should be guiding how we make decisions, how we prioritize, how we, and do we think, the answer could be yes, that cultures need to be so unique in the two buildings that we shouldn't have district core values guiding decisions as opposed to building level core values guiding the way we make decisions and prioritize in buildings.
My answer, I don't think they would be so different that we couldn't. I mean, we're a very small school culture. I would think we could. I do think one of the neat things that's happened is we've had these two growth plans developing, and as you can see, the priorities are not that different. So they're
Yeah.
arriving at the same conclusions, which is kind of exciting to see that it's clear our educators know what we need to do. They just need us to point the direction and let them do it. And I think we're making great progress.
Just a thought.
Yep.
Great. All right, with that, we will head right into, thank you all very much. Appreciate it.
Thanks, everybody.
I know it's a long night. Head right into discussion items. The first item being correspondence. Has anyone received any correspondence they'd like to share? Nope. Moving right along. We have the school board goals that we've coalesced around and I think have a final set that we're ready to vote on tonight. Does anyone have any discussion items around the goals that we received from Todd's final tweaking for us, I guess?
No,
Phil, did you end up doing this?
Phil's the one that did
Yeah,
all,
I mean,
all
I
the
think
final
I'm
draft.
trying to look at these and trying to see if they
I can't get them all.
shift to develop metrics that
Oh, here they are.
maybe, and this is my language too, I probably added an S to expand. I don't know, metrics that expands. Like metric that expand, right? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like the metrics is plural, expand should be singular, but other than that, I mean, I think that's the only one that really there was any edits to based on our last conversation, and the edit was really just around, it was a small one, but I think, small grammatically, big I think philosophically, of like, we're not looking for one metric of like, here's what we're assessing against, it's like, what is the dashboard of metrics that are beyond standardized assessment?
Anyone have any other thoughts on that? Lonnie? No. Okay. Keep looking at you,
Thanks,
Lonnie,
Dan,
but I
for
realize
working.
you can't tell that I'm looking at you, so I probably should acknowledge you. All right, fantastic.
I now totally understand what the stenographer was talking about.
Uh-oh.
About being able
Can't
to
hear us?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, is it me? Am I mumbling again?
No, Phil, you're pretty clear.
Yeah,
I feel like I keep leaning forward as if that's going to help.
Is it me? Because I
It's
tend
Gary,
not to
huh?
enunciate. All right, with that, it's good that I'm not the person who does most of the talking at these meetings. We'll head next into the New Hampshire School Board Association delegate resolutions. So I don't know if you've received emails from the School Board Association, but they do request if there's any boards who'd like to submit any resolutions to them. So Todd rightly brought up that we should probably discuss it as a board.
And the deadline for submissions is August 2nd. So certainly if we wanted to think on it and have it be an agenda item to discuss at the August 1st meeting, we could conceivably present something. We just have to submit it by August 2nd. And this is for the delegate assembly that's in, I believe, October.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not prepared to really have a robust
If
conversation
anyone
tonight.
does think of one, feel free to submit it, and we'll put it on the agenda. Lonnie, I'm going to rely on you to kick me if you can't understand me or hear me. So, next,
It's a convenient thing to say, which is like in another place.
well, real-time feedback is useful. Next, we'll head into the budget process for the 2025-2026 school year. Jan has been good enough to provide a level services budget for us. Jan, did you want to present that?
Sure. So obviously, this is an estimate. It's a rough estimate. It's kind of presented at a very high level. As we go through the budgeting process, we'll have much more granular detail. But in order to make this, it's just an estimated budget for 25, 26, assuming that we have the same operational model, same level of services, same number of employees, same everything, increased for factors based on things that are outside of our control, such as inflation and other cost increases that organically happen over time. So for salaries, we broke it just like we do with our financial statements into 3 sections. So for salaries, the analysis does not include, this number does not include any increases for teachers because this is a collective bargaining year. So any increases for teachers would be presented as a separate warrant article. That said, for all non-collectively bargained individuals, it's been budgeted with like a 3% COLA, and the NSSA increases are the ones that are in accordance with the article voted by the residents 2 years ago, year 2 of that CBA. Benefits, it assumes an increase in payroll taxes and New Hampshire retirement contributions, obviously in accordance with the salaries, because those are based off salaries. And for health insurance, we've estimated a 10% increase and dental at a 5%. Those tend to be fluctuate, and we've seen some variability in our own district, so that's just our best guess for the moment. Then on the operations side, we kind of looked at each sector. Obviously, there are different sectors that are involved, such as utilities and services and supplies. And we kind of based our estimates on historical norms for those particular sectors, as well as some macroeconomic factors that we're aware of in the environment. So with that all said, by breaking those things down into all of the pieces that we have, we've moved over to the general sectors that we have in our financial statements, boiling it all down. We are looking at, just for level services without the teacher increase, somewhere in the neighborhood of 3.23%. Now that's not saying it won't change as we go through the budget process and we may be able to fine tune it, but that's kind of the best guess we have with the information we have right now.
Great, thank you.
Okay.
Does anyone have any questions on that part?
Just one. So there are 3 professional services buckets. Which one has legal expense in it, and are we assuming any increase from legal expense?
I think we assumed for all of the professional services, we assumed 5% increase across the board, with the exception of our food service management and our custodial services, because those are very labor intensive things, and that sector's been impacted more so than others. So I think we have factored our legal in at a 5%.
All right, and do you remember ballpark what the baseline was for legal? 'Cause honestly,
I'd have to research that for you and bring it back, but I do believe we had an amount in the budget, but we also encumbered some funds from fiscal year 23 because of an ongoing need. So I think the total budget wound up being about $250,000, but that's not the budget. That was what
I feel like it was around 50,000. I don't know why that number.
But there's it's
Maybe
in,
not the total, yeah.
right, it's in multiple places, because clearly there's this special education.
Has,
and there's different areas where we use legal services.
Yeah, I'd have
And I
to-
think you're right, the legal,
The board.
right,
Yeah,
you're right, it was
Yeah.
approximately in that 50,000 range.
Okay,
But I could bring that back to you.
thank you.
I apologize, I should have also included an item to discuss a budget goal, and I neglected to do that, so sorry, with the board, we can add in a 4.5 budget goal item.
It's actually, it's right here under, setting budget goals is item number 2 under budget process.
Oh,
Yep.
okay. Oh, it doesn't have it ticked off here.
Okay, yep.
Oh, this new format.
Yeah, we're all learning, Gary, don't?
Thank you. Thank you. Internet's hard. Okay, so we have 2 items under budget process. Excuse me. I'll have to get used to this. So the second item would be setting a budget goal. Anyone want to throw out a budget goal? So obviously.
Wants
it's-
to, or?
Well, we don't have to do it by tonight, but it'd be really, really, really helpful. And if we didn't, we'd have to do it obviously at the next meeting, and it would be a rather short timing for the.
Well, the earlier you can give us guidance, the sooner we can start to make real decisions. I mean, clearly Jenna, in her discussion, we've given you the level services budget, but until we actually start developing things, we won't know exactly what's going to get teased out. So if you could give it to us tonight, that would be great. If you can't give it to us till August 1st, we'll adapt. But ideally, tonight would be when we would prefer to have some guidance.
3.9, right?
3.9, which was, I believe, 1.14 million, if I recall correctly from an hour ago when someone told me that.
And I think your goal last year was 4%,
right.
and we got it in
4%,
at 3.9. Yep.
So we have to, when we come up with this goal, obviously the board knows this, but for the public, we have to also consider that there's going to be, and as Janet pointed out, it's going to be the teacher contract, which although it won't be part of the goal, will certainly be an impactor.
If this was any other year, if this is a year without a teacher contract, that increase would be incorporated in the salaries in this, correct? And it's not.
Correct.
So we had a
And it will be
3.9% increase with teacher salary
With teacher and with para
increases
educators.
and para increases, with all the increases, right? Para increases are in here though, right? Because
Correct.
they're
Correct.
Correct.
so I mean,
So last year we had 4 was our goal, right?
Last year we had 4. It was tight getting past. There's also been, as Todd pointed out, the reassessment, which has not been equally distributed, therefore is affecting some people more than others. We don't know. I don't think that's been officially released yet.
No.
But I'm confident that some people's home prices have increased a lot higher on the lower end than maybe the higher end people have, because that's just, I think, the nature of, increases. But so there's that we need to consider. I don't think 4% is a reasonable number this year.
No, where my head is at is we've got to, in aggregate, hold it below 3. How much below 3
I would not disagree with you.
is, to be determined, but
I think the key there is aggregate.
well, right, and that
Yeah.
makes it, again, I don't know if we're helping you as much as we'd like to, because if we say in aggregate, then that kind of casts everything in the light of what happens with the negotiations with the Teachers Association. So it makes it
Right.
more all of this is more challenging on account of.
but I think it's unfair of us to give we can't give an aggregate number now. If we want to give guidance, I think we have to give guidance that's like to the budget, because who knows what's going to happen in that negotiation, and to presuppose.
If I could just
True.
offer a couple of thoughts. I do think one of the things that is unknowable right now is the impact of the reevaluation. So we have to keep ourselves only focused on the appropriation side of the equation, and like, okay, what's a palatable place for us to be? And there's no question that the tax impact is not going to be equally distributed. There's no question about that, and we have to be cognizant of that. But I think we have to stick to that side of the equation. And again, the level services budget, 3.23%, that assumes nothing different. Clearly, if we need to go deeper, there will have to be, changes. And certainly that's something we need to know early enough on that we can start to look at what's the best way to make those things happen.
So I feel like it's like when you're in negotiations with someone to buy something, you say, what's your number? And then they want your number, and you don't want to give your number. And so I hate to ask you what your number is, because I know the level of services is 3.23. But do you have a feel for what we could absorb without significantly impacting the education we're providing? I know, it's not a fair question.
I think that number is 3.23.
Is that, I don't know if that's a fair statement.
I think there is room for us still to take a look at some of the structures and some of the programs we have running, and certainly get below 3%. I think there's room for that. But I would challenge the assumption that you can also roll into it the negotiations of the teacher's contract alongside of that. I think that is going to be very challenging because we have to be able to go to the table and have a dialogue and arrive at.
Yeah.
We have to be able to do that. And I think if you set it too low up front, there's no room for negotiation.
Is there like a, I don't want to create extra work for you. We always create extra work for you. Is there a way to see like what the impact of, I'm just throwing these two numbers out there, like a 2 and a 3, or a 2.5 and a 3, like 3 is close to this, right? Like I'm not sure how much it's going to take us to get a 0.23% difference. But
I did the quick math, so
Yeah.
this is saying level services is 883 increase.
Yeah.
2.5 would be right at 682.
But
Like a
it's
200.
but it's the
200
but it's the
grand.
effect that it has that we're more.
the effect is what I'm asking.
We're asking.
Like, what is the impact, right? Because like,
Yeah.
here, like, because you, like, I think your question was like, without majorly impacting. I think something would have to change or be impacted if we don't go below 3.23, right? It's going to change something that we're doing inside these buildings. Whether there's a way to mitigate like the educational impacts of that, it's going to have some sort of impact on someone.
Yeah.
The,
As the
like-
wise person said earlier, it's not paper and paper clips that's going to get us there.
Right. Yeah. To me, it becomes, what are those? Who said that? I guess I would want to know, like, if we're going to look at those numbers to see at like a couple levels, or like 2, 2.5, and 3, like what that looks like in terms of like.
Yeah, I can tell you during the most challenging times in my previous district, it was not uncommon for the board to ask to see a range of possibilities. Obviously, we can't completely vet multiple budgets because that's an enormous amount of work. But if you were to say to us, okay, show us what a 2% would look like, show us what a 2.5%, we could go through the intellectual exercise and say, what does that look like? That doesn't.
It could mean
Yeah.
23 kids per classroom throughout the system, right? I mean, it could
Right.
be, yeah. So
And just knowing what that, like, it's easier to know, like, okay, how deep can we look at, and it's not even cutting, right? Like what, it's, I guess
we
it's
are cutting.
ostensibly cutting, right?
We are.
What are we willing to do? Like, where are we willing to draw that line between, like, the both important components of, like, people on the fringe in this community being able to afford living in their house, and when I say fringe, I guess I mean economic fringe, and ensuring that we're providing like an excellent education to the children of Newmarket is an ongoing polarity, and like we have the unenviable task of managing that. So seeing like what the impacts would be, like feel like the right prudent, for me would be prudent in helping make as opposed to drawing a number right now.
So then what range would we, I'm sorry, like Lonnie, Amy, like are you comfortable heading down that, like, does that seem like the good road to head down? To me it does, to ask for, sorry Lonnie.
She leans in when you're talking.
I know,
I'm noticing
I
this.
noticed that. So
Can't hear you.
Is this better? It is, awesome, okay. No, it's fair, if you can't hear me, then I need to talk louder. Does that, I mean, so Phil's proposing that we ask Todd and the team for a range of kind of budgets and to see what the impact of those would be. To me, that feels like the right way to go, but I want to see if everybody else feels that's the right way to go, and then also what range are we looking for? Like, obviously, we're not going to do every increment, but are we looking for 1, 2, and 3? Are we looking for 2 and 3? Are we looking for?
Yeah, I don't want to turn this into a long exercise for anyone, but I would like to cast the net reasonably wide, because, and this isn't just because I'm looking for the lowest number I can come up with. I'm also looking for the ability to look my constituents in the face at whatever number we come in at and say, yes, we did look at numbers that were lower than this, and oh, by the way, here were all the awful things concomitant with going there. And I'm not saying that that's going to convince anybody of anything they didn't already believe, but I'll feel better.
And if we could have like maybe 3 different options, 2, 3, and 4.
So Amy's thinking 2, 3, and 4. We have 3, pretty much, right?
Yeah, sure.
We
I
have
would say
3.
1, 2, and 3. If we're going to ask for 3 data points, those would be the ones I'd be interested in seeing.
The only reason I'm inclined, is that my numbers are just not making out, like that 0.23%, I don't know what that actually equals in dollars, to assume that level 3 is about level
It
funded.
would be about 70,000.
So we'd have to, like, something would have to go, right? But I think it's important
That
for
might be
us.
paperclips, right?
I
We
think we
might
have
be able
to
to get there with.
look at both ends of the spectrum here, like our lowest and a high number, a low and a high, just so we have an idea, because we're going to have to cut. If we don't cut, then it's going to be higher. I don't know. This is
So when you say high,
me.
are you thinking
Like-
above level service funding? So above where we are now?
yeah.
Because a 4 would be above.
Right.
Adding more
I just think
services
we
or
need
people or-
to have an idea, just in case. I mean, I don't know, I'm just thinking about cutting things, and it freaks me out, because we're kind of on the
I'm assuming,
bare minimum right now. I
knowing
think.
Jana, that the 3.23% is a realistic but a little bit conservative number, not that we should take it lightly, but that,
Yeah, I would say, I mean, Jenna has put a lot of time and energy into creating this estimate, but there are things that we can't know because we haven't renegotiated contracts. I mean, you can talk to that. Yeah.
Right, so some of this, fortunately, if you remember, we did a whole bunch of RFPs for our like operational services things. I think we did 5 or 6 this year.
Yeah.
So I have real numbers for those. But there are a lot of things that we just don't have real numbers for. And we're very, and we're in a digital age. We have a lot of subscriptions that manage our instructional platforms. We have a lot of subscriptions, Blackboard, things like that. And those increases historically have been kind of a wild card. You don't get you don't really know. So that and the things that impact us have to do with getting staff in, right? Because we can set our salaries if we're hiring our own people, but if we can't find people to fill those roles and we have to seek outside, things, we have to take the going rate, right?
Like contracts?
Yeah.
So, those are kind of the things that we're struggling with a little bit, between the things we can control and the things we can't. Something as silly, not silly, but electrical rates. After I did this, I just got information from New Hampshire Electric Co-op that the delivery side of my equation for electrical is higher than what I thought. I think I'm still good with this estimate, but it's just those kinds of things that we're really early in the process to know those things.
so that, it goes back to your point, right?
Right. I'm just trying to plan for the worst case scenario. That's how I
I guess what I would challenge you to, it's like, at this point, you're giving us a target to shoot at. Doesn't mean you have to decide whatever, but putting it in front of you so you have something to think about, it doesn't mean you have to do it.
Right.
So I don't think you have to feel it's like a high stakes thing. It's like, okay, can we explore what this might look like? And as long as you understand that it would have to be on a higher level of detail, but we could give you an idea of, like, if you wanted us to look at 2%, like, what would we have to do to reach 2%?
Yeah.
We could give you some indication of that, of what the impacts would be. 1%, what would that mean? And again, we haven't talked about the potential cost of the teacher contract and all of this.
Having emotional reactions back there,
But I think we can start to tease that out for you. I think the sooner you tell us that, though, the more likely are we're going to be to do it. I will, the
I
caveat.
certainly would like to see 1 and 2.
Okay.
Whether or not we go to 4, I don't know if it gives us a whole lot, but if that.
I mean, 4 would be like, what do we want to
we
add?
could just
Yeah, well, or what,
We may have to,
I think Jana's, she's saying,
because
not
like
that we would
with the
add, that if all of a sudden
electrical-
we find an electrical goes
Right,
up
just
and
went up.
transportation goes up and
I mean, we have
and
no
fuel oil
control
goes
of
up,
that stuff,
you know,
so.
200% or something. Of course, if that happened, then we're still cutting somewhere else, right?
Right, and just for clarity's sake, you know, we can do the exercise, but just understand that right now, the cost of the teacher contract is unknowable, because it's a separate item. So if you're asking for 1% or 2%, it would be based upon
Strictly budget.
strictly the budget, yeah.
Yeah, no, that I understood, and, you know, they're all moving pieces, but at least we can take one of the moving pieces and put some, you know, put some meat around what it means
Yeah.
in reality, and that, again, for me, is very helpful,
Yeah,
to,
definitely.
you know, to begin to, you know, we're all gonna have to make a choice at
Yep.
the end of this, and to frame the reasons why we come to the choice we're coming to.
I would throw out the caveat that I'm going to be away for the next 2 weeks, so it would probably not be the next meeting that we would be able to start talking about this. In fact, in many cases, it might need to wait until that first meeting in September for us to get to a place where we can give you those kind of numbers, just because it's going to take some time for us to kind of go through the intellectual process as a team. But it's absolutely doable, so I just want to just acknowledge that. But it would be helpful tonight if you could tell us, okay, these are the targets we want you to give us an indication of what they look like.
I mean, I feel like 1 and 2 are kind of there.
Well, if we think this is
We
the
could-
reasonable proxy for 3, then is it 1, 2, and 4?
Yeah, or do we need, I mean, I wouldn't spend a ton of time on 4, I guess,
Yeah, I wouldn't
right? Because
either.
that's
but-
pretty much just increasing it, making the assumption that something goes really bad
Yeah.
in some sector. Would it,
1 and 2 is where we're gonna have to see like decisions we would have to make.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's ones that would be like, hey,
Yeah.
are we willing to make this
Yeah.
decision?
4 would be us giving you a wish list of things you'd like to
Like
expand
add,
upon.
yeah.
Lonnie, does that sound okay to you? I guess my only other question would be, would it be useful for us to give you a goal at the same time? Or are those kind of giving you close enough to a goal that you could start formulating?
Let me
what you need
just
to
say,
do?
let me tell you what I'm thinking out loud, and you tell me if I've got this. I'm hearing a desire to go below 3%, and I'm thinking that with my leadership team, we need to go below 3%. However, in the process of doing that, you want us to map out what would 1% and 2% look like. But I hear loud and clear, go as far below 3% as you can get anyway, because it's in the benefit of all of us to do so.
I mean, if I had to give you a number personally, I would frame it as, assume it's going to be around 2%, but let's see what 1 and 2% look like.
Yep, okay.
That's just me. I'm not speaking for the rest of the board.
I mean, we have 3%, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Like, we have that to fall back on, like the,
Right. I'm just thinking from the standpoint of giving my leadership team some guidance as to get this process started. It's clear to me we are definitely going to try to go below 3%.
I think
Right?
so.
And we're going to look at what 1 and 2 look like, and if they're feasible, we'll talk about that too. Right?
yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
I think that's fair.
Yeah, I think it's fair.
I feel like that's a consensus. Thank you. I know that's a number of fun.
But it does
It's not
help to
fun
get
for
the
us
clarity. No, it's good to have the clarity up front so we can start to think about those things.
Another completely unfair question, actually, while we're asking all the unfair questions. I mean, the earliest to think we might get an idea of what the default budget would look like?
Oh, gosh, that's way down the line. November,
Yeah, we
December.
can give you an estimate.
Did you
December.
ask about default?
Yeah.
Default, I don't usually calculate till after that doesn't happen usually till December.
Okay.
But again, remember, the default is based on this year's budget, plus or minus one-time changes, plus or minus increases already negotiated. So if you're talking even a level budget for next year, it's likely your default can be higher than your in certain circumstances, it could be higher than you're operating.
That was kind of the directional insight I was looking for. Thank you.
Yeah.
That happened in a community recently, and they voted down the proposed budget and went with the default, which was higher. Interestingly.
Should be an interesting thing to root for.
I feel like they thought they were punishing someone. Not sure who. All right, next up, we have the food service debt write-off. I'm sure Jana can be more detailed than I am, but annually, there's some additional food service debt that's on our books, and we need to, well, we should write it, I think legally we have to write it off, right?
Yeah, so
So-
if the definition is if we consider it to be unlikely to collect in the future, we should be writing it off. So just to preface this, this is the last board meeting we have until August, and we have begin our financial audit at the end of July, so that's why this is coming to you. And on one side note, in your orange folder, I just wanted to give some explanation. Every year our auditors ask us to have the board questionnaire completed. This year, there's a component of the board questionnaire that's asking for experience levels of board members and your work, kind of work history in a summary. And so I've given you each a form in that folder for you to complete your experience levels and get them back to us, because I don't know that Gary's going to know specifically what everybody has done.
They all have them already, except for
Okay.
Lonnie, which I think we'll see if we
Perfect.
can get
So,
one mailed out to
I
Lonnie.
just
Somebody
figured-
have mine, because I have Amy's.
They're all
Mine says
the same.
Amy
They're all
Hughes,
the
they're all the
same.
same.
Right, okay.
Yep.
That's why I just,
Yep.
Good.
So anyways, just as a way of that, usually Gary will complete the board questionnaire on behalf of the board, but I thought to give him a leg up, I'd help gather that
Do
information
they
for
always
him.
ask for these?
What's that?
This is new.
I've never
mail
done
out
one
the
of these
one.
before.
It's new this year.
Oh,
The
okay.
board questionnaire never contained this information before,
Oh,
so
okay. Curious.
that's why I'm getting it out to you.
Yeah.
But anyways, as we prepare for the audit, we are recommending, we've gone through our student rosters for food service debt. We typically look at graduating seniors with no siblings in the district. We look at students that have moved away from the district, and we look for families who may have been like a paid lunch, but during the year something happened and they were recategorized as free or reduced. Obviously, if they were recategorized at a lower rate, they probably don't have the wherewithal to pay the balance from the earlier. So
Is this a misprint, the 3rd, 4th, 6th, and 1st graders who are marked as having graduated?
Yeah, I'm confused about that.
If not, who are these prodigal children and where are they going to college next year?
I'm sorry, I thought they said eligibility. I gotta
where
look
did they
back.
graduate?
It says reason
Under
for write-off.
Reason for write-off.
Oh, well, I will check
It's
that out
probably-
with my assistant when
it
we get
probably
back.
means they
but
exited the
It's
system.
probably an
Okay.
eligibility change, and it probably got resorted,
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
so that the numbers went, but
Didn't
See
we
how many
receive
12th graders?
the
One,
dollars are the
two,
right.
First grade
Didn't we receive a
graduated.
donation to
Three,
pay
four,
for this?
five. Yeah,
Some
we
of it.
did.
Some of it, okay, got it.
yeah. We actually did recently receive a donation,
Yeah.
and we were able to, it was a large enough donation that we always reach out to our teams at the school, our social workers and our principals to say, to determine what they
Got
know
it.
of families, because we don't know the families at the
Yeah.
business office. So that was distributed. Anybody that has made a payment or anybody that was a recipient of those funds has had their balance either reduced or removed from this list. So this reflects our amount that we're recommending for this year. The amount is $4,498.48.
So this reflects that donation of 1,700, this
The
amount?
1,700 is already been
Already-
given elsewhere. Yep.
Like, there are 5 12th graders on the list and 5 student graduated, so I think Jan is right, that was probably a resort issue.
Yeah.
Okay. I just wanted to congratulate them if they
We
graduated.
do have
first
some
grade.
exceptional third graders.
Yeah.
All right, great. Are there any questions regarding the food service debt write-off?
No?
No.
Fantastic. All right, next up, we have an interesting request, going through it a little further, but basically the district attorney at Sullivan County is retiring, and he has some outstanding cases he needs to resolve, or would like to resolve before he retires, one of which involves a complaint against counsel for us, and regarding meeting minutes that have been sealed. And in order to resolve the issue, the district attorney has asked that we unseal or provide at least a redacted copy of those minutes so that
he can ascertain as to whether they legally exist.
Just to give you the specific request, they've asked that these are the sealed meeting minutes that we have talked about in the past in litigation issues, and the complaint is related to that complaint. Basically, what he has asked is if we would unseal the minutes, give them to our counsel to redact anything that is private, and then give the redacted version to the district attorney to be able to close out the investigation. The investigation specifically relates to a question about whether our counsel was telling the truth about meeting minutes in court previously, and obviously the evidence would be, here they are.
So,
Sure.
so I would suggest that the board agrees that we, one, make a motion to review the minutes to determine whether we want to unseal them, and then come back into public session. We'd obviously have to do that non-public, back into public session and vote whether or not to unseal them.
Works for me.
I think that's the best way to do it.
Okay.
Can that wait till next meeting? Or is that some, do we have those minutes today?
We do have those minutes, as it turns out.
Oh, we
You
do?
definitely have them with you, right?
Well, if
Well,
they're in the folder.
well, that's a good point. Are they in the folder?
Okay.
That's an excellent question, Phil.
Thought there was a folder
Are they
that
in
we
this
had.
folder?
Always looking in the red folder.
Yeah, it's
No.
gotta be the right folder, right?
No.
All right.
Okay, we don't have them.
So, to answer your question.
Sorry.
That's
No,
indicative.
absolutely.
Assuming it's not in here.
You brought that up.
You just double check that they weren't stuck in that folder.
These are all manifests.
Yeah,
Do
okay.
not think so. Sorry.
Be in sealed envelopes,
Yeah.
hopefully.
Yeah.
Yeah, it would be a single sealed envelope, and it's not there.
Sorry.
No,
That
it's
was
not
a
your
very
fault.
good question. So, yes, it can wait for another meeting. Well, if this
So,
attorney is
so
trying to retire.
yeah, well,
Unless,
could the board
You can go there.
authorize,
Yeah.
right?
Me and
Because
Gary
you
did
had
it
formed a
before.
subcommittee to do
Yeah.
it.
Sure.
Could the board
Well,
authorize you to
even-
do it?
Well, I don't know if they can authorize us to unseal, they can authorize us to review them. I don't know if they can authorize us
They'd have to vote on August
Yeah,
1st.
right,
yeah.
we'd have to do that as a board.
But you could do
to
it prior to
review
that
them
and then
like we
just
did
make a
before.
recommendation next meeting. Kind of like what you did.
Yeah,
'cause
like we
remember
did
that
before.
we,
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fine, so we can review it, but at the next meeting, we could just go into
Right.
non-public.
Yeah,
and
true.
open the meeting, Right?
true,
Yeah.
yep, you are right.
Because we can't vote on it until, and then those exciting minutes can be read by everyone. So, it's up to you. I don't think there's any reason for us to meet beforehand, but
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. Yep, we'll do that. At the next
Thanks.
meeting, we will have a non-public to discuss that.
So, apologies, everyone. All right, next up, we have a first read and a second read, which I've already got myself disheveled, on 2 policies, or 3 policies.
It's 3.
First read on 3, second read on 1.
On the
Right.
orientation.
So if I could just jump in here, that the second read, that's policy BIA, which was, actually, the first read was done on March 7th, just prior to Lonnie coming on board. And we changed meetings a bunch of times, and it
never did a
somehow
second
never
read.
came back for second read, so I apologize. We've used it, we reviewed with Lonnie the new board orientation stuff, but it didn't officially get adopted, so that's why it's up for second read. And then the first reads are policies that were reviewed by the policy committee at our last meeting. One is nursing mothers, ACN, and the other one is KEC and KECR, which is reconsideration of instructional materials.
Great. Is there any discussion regarding those policies? No?
No.
Fantastic. Head next into acknowledging donations, which I assume is an attachment here somewhere.
Yep. There is a,
The NCEP,
the NCEP grants.
Again, generously donated
There are 3 separate grants totaling $1,497.24.
for therapy animal supplies,
Yep.
classroom books for the 8th grade, and Komochi's
Educator toolkit,
Educator Toolkit. I'm going to assume I said that semi-correctly.
whatever that is.
Just fantastic. Thank you very much. I assume that's under action items as well. All right, next up, we'll open the floor for public comment at 6:58. Seeing no one from the public, we'll go ahead and close the floor at 6:58. And next up, we have the approval.
You want some motions here?
I do.
I got you. I move to approve policy BIA, new member orientation revision.
I second that.
All right. So our second, Dan Smith. Are there any discussions regarding that? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Seek a motion to approve the June 20, 2024 minutes.
So moved.
Motion by Phil,
Second.
second by Dan. Are there any corrections, amendments, revisions? I don't have any.
No.
No? Okay. With that, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Abstain, I wasn't there.
So we have 4 ayes. Any
One.
nays? No, and 1 abstention. Thank you, Amy.
I move to approve the manifest in the total of $2,064,785.58.
So moved.
We have a motion by Phil, a second by Amy. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Seek a motion to approve the cyber incident response plan, what was presented tonight by Jason.
So moved.
Second.
A motion by Dan, a second by Amy. Any discussions? Just thank you, Jason and team, for all your excellent work. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Seek a motion to approve the district school goals and school growth plans.
So moved.
Motion by Phil,
Second.
second by Amy. Any discussion on those plans?
Thank you for all the hard work that went into it.
Absolutely.
Looks good.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
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 Motion passes. Seek a motion to approve the school board goals.
So moved.
Motion by Amy,
Second.
second by Dan. Any discussion? Thank you, Phil, for revising those.
Thanks, John.
A lot of teamwork, I know Dan did most of the authoring, but.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Motion passes 5-0. Approval of the 26 budget goals, which we are not going to vote on tonight, because I don't think have we given you enough of what we call it a budget goal of below 3%?
Well, I guess,
Would you
do you want to articulate what you just told me so we have that in the record? What I
Yeah.
heard you say was you want us to look at 1 and 2. You definitely want us to go below 3.
All right, I seek a motion to,
You go ahead. Go
no,
ahead,
no,
Matt.
please.
I'm not sure I'm going to say definitely want you to go below 3. I don't know if I could vote for that phraseology.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's true.
That's why I said it, because I want to make sure
Yeah.
I have what you're asking us to do.
I'd I'm interested in seeing 1 and 2 and understanding what that delta is in terms of services for students from 3 to be able to make that call.
Okay, fair enough. So we're going to pass.
I know it's like 1 word difference, but
I still think it gives them what you need,
So-
it gives you what you need to give to your
So
staff.
you want to see 1 and 2, 1 and 2%, and with the assumption that we're going to try to go below 3, but it's not a definite. Okay.
So moved.
Second.
That was a wishy-washy motion over. There you are.
All right, well, we can vote on a more proper motion next meeting. Seek a motion to approve the food service write-off of 4,000.
Did we vote on that last one? We had a bunch of motions.
I assumed we were going to hold off
Oh, okay, all right.
on the budget goals. I think we've given them enough.
Okay.
But we haven't,
All right,
I don't think it's fair to call it.
It's not a goal, really.
It's
yet.
not really a goal.
We will begin
Give
our
us
work.
something.
We will give you, okay,
I
that's,
was gonna be able to give you was I-ish,
Yeah, yeah, right.
sort of
Does anyone have the budget goal, excuse me, right off in front of you?
I will tell you in a minute.
1 second.
The food service write-off total?
Yeah, I don't need it. I'd seek a motion to approve the food service write-off presented this evening.
So moved.
in the total of $4,498.48.
Thank you. So moved.
Motion
Second.
by Phil, second by Dan. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. Motion passes 4 to
I think we
something.
lost Lonnie.
4 to 0 with an abstention. For now.
Lonnie's gone.
Yeah, okay. Interesting. All right, I guess we're gonna call that.
Just sick of your mumbling.
Guess we're gonna call that an abstention. I don't know what else we would call it. And then we're gonna hold off on unsealing the minutes that we failed to bring with us. I don't believe we have any need to go into non-public.
There's a personnel matter, I think.
I did want to just acknowledge a couple of hires since the last time we were here. We did hire a part-time choral instructor at the junior senior high, Maria Isaac.
A part-time what?
A chorus
Oh,
instructor.
You said choral.
Choral, like choral music.
Choral.
Yep,
Okay.
choral music.
did that.
So she has been hired, a tremendously experienced choral musician, and actually in all areas of music, piano, and all that, exceptional hire. And although it's not on the list, you were introduced to Erin Milbury, who is officially on board as our assistant principal at the elementary school.
Great, thank you very much. I will learn to click on the links next time. I believe that is it. Our next public board meeting is August 1st. It says the cafeteria, but it'll be here in the media center. And with that, I'd seek a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Phil, second by Amy to adjourn at 7:05 PM. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned. Thank you.